Well, Jim, let's get one more question here before we go to Dynamite. This one, once again, from the official Cult of Cornette Facebook group, sent by Brandon Hitchcock. I was talking to...
Oh, come on. That's got to be made up.
I was talking to someone the other day.
No, what he's done is, see here, he listens to the program all the time. He knows we talk about Brandon Thurston Howell III, and he knows that Heyman looks like Hitchcock, so he's made that up. It's going to be a rib question.
What if it's the son of John Hitchcock?
No, he didn't have any kids. He had a dog.
All right, well, let's get back to the question here. I was talking to someone the other day about wrestlers from Kentucky, and they was telling me of a wrestler from fairly local named Nelson Royal.
What?
Well, I'll admit I'd never heard of him. They was telling me he invented the Battle Royal match. While I find that the last name and the name of coincidence, is there anything to that? Who did invent the Battle Royal, if not him? So, Jim, can you talk a little bit about Nelson Royal of Kentucky and if he indeed invented the Battle Royal?
Well, there's a few things wrong with that. What is this guy's name? Brandon
Hitchcock.
Brandon Hitchcock. Nelson Royal was not from Kentucky. Nelson Royal spent much of his life in Mooresville, North Carolina. I can't remember when he first got into business in the 60s. He was an English lord, right? But he was not English. He's not from Kentucky, and he did not invent the Battle Royal. He invented the goddamn, what did Dusty call it? The boot, the bunkhouse
Stampede.
Bunkhouse Stampede. Because Nelson Royal, after he retired from full-time wrestling, and actually before he retired, he had opened a Western store. He liked to ride horses, and he had the cowboy boots and blah, blah, blah. And at one point he was, from Texas. But he opened up a Western store in North Carolina. And when Dusty wanted to do the Bunkhouse Stampede and award the big bronze boot to the Bull of the Woods, baby, that's where they had Nelson out by the campfire on a tape on television, talking about how in the old days in the Cowboys, the bunkhouse, when they got in a big brawl or whatever, the toughest man won. And it was very folksy and westerny, and Dusty liked shit like that. So Nelson didn't invent it, Dusty did, but Nelson pitched it, but it was the Bunkhouse Stampede Battle Royals rather than just, nobody knows who invented the first ever Battle Royal. Brian, is that pretty safe to say at this point?
Yeah, I think so.
And then we found out through, like, Scott Teal's research into Amarillo. And, they used to have back in the 1920s when there was only like 2 or 4 professional wrestlers on a card or in a town, they would let amateurs, even young black kids, they would give them boxing gloves and put them in the ring for a shoot until only one was left and call that a battle royal. And this was a thing that, even with kids, was a thing that was done in some places. So I don't even know if it was applied in a wrestling context first or whether it was some kind of boxing thing that was a battle royal. They did strange things back in those days, Brian.
I remember in early 88, because I heard about it when I became a fan, local fans were still talking about it at the Nassau Coliseum. They did, WWF did, the Bunkhouse Brawl. And Jim Duggan came out in a New York Islanders jersey. People were still talking about that a few years later. Got a big pop. It was years later, too, and I found out, they did that because Dusty was coming with the Bunkhouse Stampede. They created their own bunkhouse match.
Yes.
And put it in the same building.
And that's where, that was the Bunkhouse Stampede was what, January 1988 and on pay-per-view in Nassau. And
that's right.
God, that was a rotten show. And like the Midnight were in singles matches underneath, and there's only 5 matches on the card because the bunkhouse thing was going to take a while. And is that the one where they they printed the wrong start date on some of the tickets?
I'm not sure. I seem to remember you saying something about that, but I don't remember.
I think it is. If it is, it's either that one or the one before, but I think it was that one. And a bunch of people, because it was like fucking 5 o'clock, right? The start time for the pay-per-view, because of some bullshit with Vince again. And some of the people were wandering in when the last match was going on. They just got there. So it was a whole fucking fiasco. Fuck the Bunkhouse Stampede.
Well, what a wonderful transition there. Speaking of fiascos, ladies and gentlemen, let's travel through time and review AEW Dynamite. All right, we're in the future. It was brief.
That was a quick trip this time.
You know, sometimes people say, Brian, you can't play music. Because it's time travel, you idiots.
Yes.
It's not the sound of a melodious song. It's the sound of either the ship going through the air or the actual air as the ship's going through it. It's time travel.
Or then when we get out of the air in the space-time continuum, we are creating a warp speed effect with the light and shenanigan quotient.
That's right.
Everybody knows that's been to 6th grade.
And on the topic of time travel, while we were in orbit, the mothership touched down in Kentucky. We have some news, a follow-up on a previous segment. Travis Heckel, again from Kentucky, heard what we were talking about, and he sent me here a biography of Nelson Royal from the website Nelson Royal's Work and Western Wear, Boots and Saddlery.
Boy, I told you he had a Western store, but I don't know if anybody will ever go to that website based on the fact that how would you goddamn remember it?
Well, About Nelson Royal by Mike Mooneyham.
Mike Mooneyham in the Charleston Post and Courier.
And if I scroll down a little bit here in this biography, this is a long biography. Hold on, I'm trying to find the section that I was looking for.
Well, Nelson, he lived a long, full, fruitful life.
Here we go. Nelson Combs, he later added the name Royal, was born in Wheelwright, Kentucky, July 25th, 1931.
Holy shit.
Started wrestling at the age of 17 under the watchful eye of Indian star Don Eagle. Wow. So there you go.
I had no idea, and he never relayed that information to me.
Where's Wheelwright, Kentucky?
I don't have any goddamn idea, but I bet you it's somewhere in eastern Kentucky. Hold on one second. Let me just reach around here to the cabinet.
Is it near Mudlick, Kentucky?
It might be near, hold on here one second. No, that's Whitwell. Wait a minute. Let me get, I'm getting back here to, we got Randy McNally out here. Wheelwright, Kentucky is what you're saying to me. Or it could be in western Kentucky, down around the Paducah area. We don't know, but hold on. Kentucky, boy, they make this print small these days. Can you?
These days? When did you get this?
Well, I've got the atlas over the microphone, so you can't. I've only had this 10 or 15 years. Wait a minute.
These days.
Now, you made me take my eye off the ball.
Or the atlas.
Wheelwright. There's 1,025 people in it right now. K18.
As of 10 to 15 years ago.
Well, right now as this was printed. So, what did I just say? 15?
Maybe we should get back in the spaceship, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we should get back in the
hold on.
spaceship.
My first impression was correct. I believe it's over in eastern Kentucky, in the hills.
Near anything that anyone would know? How far from Barberville, for instance?
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. It's very small. I'm still trying to find the exact. No, 18, not 15. Now, oh, my God. Well, boy, that Wheelwright. That's even further. It's almost to Virginia. It is about...
Sounds like a Groucho Marx character.
20 miles to the southwest of Pikeville.
Oh.
It's right up above Fleming Neon, which we used to run in Smoky Mountain. Of course, we ran Pikeville. It's not far from Hazard.
So if you were a wrestling
down
fan
the road
living
from
there...
Betsy Lane, Kentucky.
So if you were a wrestling fan living there, you would have been able to watch Smoky Mountain Wrestling and you would have gone to Pikeville for the Bluegrass Brawl, potentially?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. You would only had to hop over 2 or 3 mountains to get there. Yeah, that's way, boy, in 1931, actually, my mother was born in 1933, and she wasn't as far over at Eastern Kentucky. She was down about 15 or 20 miles to the east of Corbin, but it's in the general area. I can't imagine. He probably didn't see a paved road for the first 10 years of his life.
Hey, crazy question. His last name is Combs. Any relation to the Combs family? Are they from Kentucky or are they from Tennessee?
What Combs family do you know of? I'll tell you.
Cora Combs, Debbie Combs?
Oh, God damn it. That's not their real fucking name.
Oh, okay. I don't know what their name is.
No, her real name her last name is Polish, and I can't pronounce or spell it.
Did they take their name? Did they take the name Combs from?
Well, the thing is, there is a Combs, Kentucky, in Eastern Kentucky, and a former governor of the state of Kentucky was Bert T. Combs, and the Combses are known in that region of the country. There may have been a few moonshiners under that name also back in the day. I'm not casting any aspersions. Is he dead? Bert Combs, he'll sue me if he's not dead. How did we get started? Oh, Nelson Royal. He's from Kentucky.
Time travel. Yeah, Nelson Royal.
But he still didn't invent the battle royal.
No, I don't think anyone could believe that.
No, well, because they shouldn't, because he didn't. But he is from Kentucky, so we apologize for the error.